What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Candid Founders, where we give you a candid view of a growing business. We are here today to talk about all things building Rome. What do I mean by building Rome? Well, we're going to talk to you about that today.
Yeah, so we haven't actually done one of these in a while. If you've been around with us for about the last year, we've been growing our YouTube channel. We've been doing lots of video content about growing the business, how you can grow yours, and we release videos every week. And then we've been doing a lot on fair wholesale and things like that, growing that part of the business. But this initially started as a podcast, so we thought we'd bring it back to our roots and do a bit of a kind of podcast style session when we talk about how things are going in the business at the moment. We are all things Christmas right now. We're about to hit the first week of December. Things have ramped up and we wanted to talk about what we're doing right now to make business a success.
Yeah, and I think the main thing for us is that we're always here to really share, what's working for us, what's not working for us, kind of what's on all, how do we grow this business. And this is just a work in progress. We think we've got a decent business, and we think that other people have a lot to learn, maybe not a lot, but they have some things to learn from us. So that's what we're going to do. So in our Building Rome sessions, Lucy and I were kind of getting to this point where we were just sitting down and getting to work every single day. And now that sounds great, but we weren't taking any steps back to review either on like a weekly basis or even a monthly basis, like what's working, what's not working. And so we were actually having a chat with our psychologist. We actually do joint psychology sessions. We've only done like a couple of them, but they've been incredibly helpful, especially when you think that we run a business together, we travel to Australia and the UK together. We'd spend a lot of time together, and I think we manage pretty well, but sometimes there's little niggles that come up. And one of those niggles is that Lucy is always wanting to try something new, and I'm always wanting to improve what we've already got. And so one of the things that Josie suggested, shout out to Josie, she's amazing, was that we actually sit down on a semi-regular basis and talk about what are the cool new things that we're going to be doing, and actually what are the things that we're doing well as well. So that's what our Building Rome session has become.
Yeah, and by the way, we call it Building Rome is because Rome wasn't built in a day. So yeah, this is essentially our empire, our empire that we are building. And Andy's right, it was very much a case of we have very, very different ways of viewing things and working. So I do get very excited about new projects and lose energy for older projects as well. It's like a classic thing where I'll be like, I don't know whether it's an entrepreneur thing or not. I've seen other people in the entrepreneur realm be like this, where they're like, oh my God, this and this and this. And I mean, Bearkind is 5 years old now, so I'm obviously can sustain a project. But I'm very into the next thing, what's next, whereas you'd rather drill down into what we're currently doing. And I think actually having both of those things obviously works really well for us. But that's why we're doing these sessions to kind of, how do we marry those up so we're actually working together succinctly rather than me just going off on my own trying to trailblaze and leaving you to pick up the pieces behind me.
Yeah, but I think it's also really helpful because with the experiments that are happening, they are experiments. Sometimes we just it doesn't work. It's like, okay, next, and we try something else. And that rapid iteration is really helpful for us. And so being able to do that all the time, and then I kind of just pick up the 1 or 2 out of 10 that are working really well and then run with that a bit more. And that's where our skill sets, kind of lie, and how do we keep scaling it and growing it is really important. So in this session, we tried to go through the whole enchilada that is our enterprises, and the main ones that we've obviously got at the moment are on Bearkind, our Wholesale AutoPilot business, and then I think YouTube, which are kind of the big 3 that we probably talk about today. Bearkind is obviously the biggest part of that at the moment.
Oh yeah, and this is where the majority of the revenue is coming from. So YouTube, we are getting, considering we've only really started this year, we are getting a small amount of revenue from YouTube. Wholesale AutoPilot as well, so we launched that. That's a digital course to help you grow your own wholesale business. And there is a small trickle of revenue coming through that, but it's a digital course. We've built it. Once it's there, we're kind of hoping it will grow over time. But Bearkind is, what would you say, 95%, if not more, of our time at the moment. And definitely our revenue is probably 98%.
Yeah, definitely. But, especially right now during Christmas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's it just pales in comparison to everything else. But then, during the rest of the year, we've really got this problem. I think we've spoken about it before, is what is essentially our salary cost divided by our revenue. And throughout most of this year, it was kind of 40+%, which is far too high. So we were spending way too much on our wage bill, which is essentially because people aren't really super into buying socks all throughout the year. You know, unless you've got like an audience that's kind of already captured in there. So for example, people are coming in to purchase not just socks, but other products as well during the year. And so we thought to ourselves, how can we actually build up other businesses?
Yeah.
But if we jump into Bear Kind, we wanted to talk, and we've been talking mostly about, I guess, the kind of like real core areas. The first is product, what are we actually selling? The second and third are what are the channels that we're selling in, so you know, our direct consumer marketing and our wholesale. And then the fourth is like how are we doing, I guess, the business, the people, that type of thing. And I think it's been really exciting to watch the product change a lot over the past couple of months.
A huge amount. There's so many strategic moves that we're making in product. It's no longer just about, okay, well, which design are we bringing out next? There's, you know, we're making manufacturing changes. We've brought in a product merchandiser who's helping us kind of move around our stock and look at our inventory levels and optimize there. And I think this is one of the biggest game changers we have done this year, I would say, moving into next year. I think we probably won't realise the changes for it until next year, because it's kind of, especially with a manufacturer move, that's a massive long-term plan. But you've been mainly leading on the manufacturing side of it, so do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we've got to the point where we have really, I think over the past 5 years, by doubling down on what's working for us. And we had a Turkish-based family business which we're running and making all of our socks. And until recently that was working well. It still is working quite well. But we've now started to reach the place where we need additional scale. So we reached out to another manufacturer, actually a manufacturer who makes one of the largest sock brands in the world. Won't mention who they are. And we kind of noticed that we really think we could get a lot of improvements. Number one, on the actual product. Number two, on the price. And so we went all around the world. We didn't actually travel around the world, that'd be sick. But we pitched a lot of different areas, different countries. And the big names really here are Japan, Korea, Pakistan, China, Turkey, all around the world, and they all use the same machines. That's like the craziest thing that you've come to. Everyone uses the same machines, and most of the product actually that they use into their socks are sourced from China anyway. And so it looks like increasingly we're going to be moving some of our manufacturing to China. That's going to bring some increased quality, just marginally, nothing too major, but some great benefits in terms of our cost price as well. So we can really save more animals. So every cent or every pence that we reduce on our costs, we can send that straight through to our bottom line donations, which are super crucial for us. And I think that's been a big piece of work because it's taking kind of 3 to 6 months to find the supplier, work with them on sampling, get comfortable with what the new products are going to be, get them comfortable and in comparing. But I don't know, how have you thought it's been coming along?
Oh, great. Yeah, I think it's easy to say now, like I look at it and think, great, it's just happened. But it has been a long time coming. It starts with the first kind of strategic decision making where we turned around and said, okay, what effect will this have on the business if we make this decision? It's a no-brainer from a cost point of view, but you also have to think about reputation. What do our customers think? We're looking at the industry and what they're doing, and we're starting to see that as a standard across the industry, and I'm particularly looking to other kind of sustainability-led brands, other B Corps. Shout out to us being a B Corp now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, just got that in.
Yeah, I just slid that in there. So I've been looking at their websites and how they communicate what they're doing with their manufacturing, and everyone is doing China +1 is the kind of what they call it, that China is a massive manufacturing hub, and so a lot of manufacturing happens there, but they then will at least have one place somewhere else. A lot have more than that. We've almost done it backwards, that we're having almost Turkey and now we're adding in China, but we're going to keep both because it helps diversify risk across the business. If something happens in Turkey, we've got somewhere completely different geographically that's doing our manufacturing. And I'm really excited to go and visit. We've got 2 manufacturers in China at the moment that we're kind of pitting against each other to kind of understand, what is going to be best for us. So we haven't decided on one yet. But at the end of the day, these guys are experts. Like, they know everything socks. And I'd like to think that we're getting there as well. Like, I feel like every conversation we have, we learn something new. So when we've been having these conversations with them, we can understand a bit more about the kind of needle count that we need, and, you know, where is the bamboo coming from, and ultimately, like, all the different certificates and qualifications that we need to ask for them. So yeah, it's been a good process. I was a bit worried about it at the start. Like, it feels like such a big change, but it's really coming along now. And now we've seen the final samples of, like, they're really good. So I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
Amazing. And the thing I keep coming back to, and actually it's not something, I don't know if I've talked to you about, like, in heaps of depth, but it's like, you know, we are trying to make the world a better place. Like, that's why we're here, full stop. But we can't conquer everything straight away.
No.
And I think the biggest thing that I saw is, like, you know, there's child slavery in Leicester in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
There's places that, you know, nowhere is doing it perfectly. And, you know, what we're doing is, okay, we're going out for the manufacturers who are accredited to the highest level you possibly can.
Yeah.
And all the products and everything in the supply chain as much as we possibly can. But people are going to have an issue with something. You know, people have problems with Turkey, they have problems with China, they have problems with, you know, England, but, you know, we're just trying to make the world a better place, and we think this is the best way that we can do it for our mission, which is to save more animals. So
yeah.
I'm really glad that we can actually.
It was another
move.
brand. Yeah, it was another brand that I was looking at. That the way they explain it is they had multiple different areas that they manufacture, and people do have an issue with manufacturing in China, and it's generally kind of the keyboard warriors out there that are happy to have their say, but you need to do your, like, research to back it up. And this is why I have done a lot of research into these factories and where the bamboo's coming from and all of these certifications. And I think this brand that I'd looked at said it really well, that you can have a factory in China that does everything really, really well, and they pay their workers an incredible wage. They've got all the certificates. They're the most ethical factory in the world. And you can have a factory in Leicester that is paying less than the minimum wage. So it's really, the public perception needs to change, that it's not just about, like, where it's being manufactured, it's everything else behind that, because you can have unethical manufacturing in the UK and you can have ethical factoring somewhere else. So, you know, as long as the brand has done their due diligence, there is nothing to say that it's wrong to manufacture in these places.
I think we could make up a new word there. Ethical factoring.
Did I make up a word?
Yeah, it's like manufacturing. Well, you said ethical factoring. It's like manufacturing, but ethically. I like it.
Ethical factoring. Well, you didn't even need to say that it was made up. I think people would have just believed, she knows what she's talking about, yeah.
But I like what that's going to kind of do, especially to, you know, I guess for me, from a numbers perspective, to the P&L. It's really going to help with our cost of goods sold, which is absolutely crucial to our business to be able to donate more money. And, you know, bringing in a merchandiser as well is probably a big crucial outlook. So, you know, it's all well and good. Everyone's gangster about a better selling price and cost price that we're going to get, but it doesn't really matter if it soaks up all the cash. And so we're actually able to do this by soaking up less cash. And so what we're doing now is working with a merchandiser and a software tool. The first one's Mary Thomas Merchandising, who's amazing, and the second is a software tool, Predictabily. And on Mary Thomas, we've been really trying to hammer down how do we reduce our costs, and make sure we're holding way less stock. And so we've really broken down the stock into 3 key areas. Number 1, sellers that we always need to keep in stock. Number 2, which are like, kind of keep them in stock most of the time if you can, but don't worry too much for the go out of stock. And number 3, these are the people that are really killing us. Not people, the socks that aren't really selling. And it's interesting to see what they are and what we've learned from them as well.
Yeah, because so what happens is in that level 3 is we look at it and we can see that they hold a certain percentage, so they're the bottom third. So they hold about 30% of our total stock. So that's 30% of our cash in stock is held here. But they are holding how many percentage of sales? Like, it's
like half. It's basically like a third is a double. The top third is double. It's like quantity. The second third is about the same, and then the last third is half.
Half of what?
Half of the value. So 33% of the stock, but 16% of the sales.
16%, that's the number I wanted. So yeah, so really we need to turn around that stock a lot faster. And something that I feel really passionate about is that every single pair of socks that we are, you know, manufacturing is going to find a home in one way or another. So it's about selling it for the right price to our customers or our retailers. It's about finding a way to discount it in the right way. So there's various initiatives we've done, things like a mystery box. So we give our customers an amazing price on a bundle of socks, but it's a mystery. So they are getting socks that we are choosing, and it's a kind of mix of some of these lower sellers. We've also got some kind of new stock in there that's, it's like newer in, but we've got lots of it, so it's ready to go in. Some of our like premium range, we've got our rib socks. So the customer's happy because they're getting a bunch of really good socks at a good price. We're happy because we do get to shift some of that slower selling stock as well. And then ultimately, what happens at the very end? So it's things like when we're doing either giveaways or samples or anything where we're kind of moving some stock, we will start to push out stock that we need to move. And then in our advertising, we're trying to push stock that needs to be pushed. And then eventually the kind of final step of the process is, okay, are we donating it? Where is it going? I think the good thing about socks is they're not going to go off. So we will always get through all of our socks. They'll always find a home. We're not going into that kind of space of fast fashion has been burning stock in the past, which obviously we will not be doing. So yeah, I think really good. This mystery box that we bought in August, actually, it was Mary's idea, so we bought it in and it went absolutely gangbusters. People were buying many of them. So it's a really good kind of model where our customers love it and they get a good bargain amount of socks, and we sell some. So I think it's been helpful having those kind of like mini bits of strategy through the year to try and move that stock.
Yeah, and the mystery box, it's just socks that people haven't considered before. So for example, our numbats, they've been going in there, and we're getting 5-star reviews on pretty much every single one of our purchases of.
Oh yeah,
mystery
people
box.
love them. This is the thing. I think with our product, essentially they're all the same. It's just a different design. So they're not getting a shit product. They're just getting something that they hadn't considered before, or potentially something that we haven't marketed very well, because we do have some Facebook ads, like our orangutan ad, that we have brought up time and time again. We've had this ad since 2021. Only recently, isn't it this month, have we had an ad that outperformed it?
Yeah.
So it's been our best performing ad until this month for the last 2 years for this orangutan
3 or
socks.
4 years,
Yeah, R21.
Would be at least. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the original packaging.
Yeah, crazy. So those socks have been selling crazy because of this one ad. So it's not necessarily a decision on the socks themselves, rather just how they're being marketed.
Yeah, and I think talking about ads is probably the right place to jump off, and our paid marketing is just exploding right now. And we've been really diligent on this. I think we've spoken about it in a previous episode as well, around how can we make sure that our marketing is being spent at the right place. And that's something that I've been upskilling myself quite a bit on. And I actually think Facebook in particular, or Meta, has gotten much easier to run adverts for you with the advent of AI. And so, it's great to be using an agency, but every agency I speak to just say the same thing. Put it to a conversion campaign, put heaps of different creative in, make it really open to the audience that you're sending customers to, and let Facebook do its thing. And I mean, I'm not willing to pay a couple £1,000s for someone to tell me that. And then they even just use our designers. So that's been really great to see. So we're hitting like kind of really consistent 3 times return on our ad spends across Facebook and Google, and we've been ramping that up. So at the moment we're spending like close to a couple £1,000s a day, which is crazy to be thinking about. And it seems to be profitable for us. Also interesting is then how does that compare to where we were last year? So I was just going through the numbers actually, and our returning customer rate is double compared to last year. Our average order value is up by almost 20%. We're at a similar level of sales. Our conversion rates are up. Everything is like positive and up and to the right. And we haven't had this like massive halo of radio ads.
Yeah, so we did radio ads last year, so obviously a massive expense to us. We went out to millions with these radio ads. Like, it was huge. It was like Jaguar Land Rover, the National Lottery, bear kind, and then it was like back to the radio stations. It was crazy. So amazing opportunity for us. Didn't have the same opportunity this year. Obviously didn't have this like massive cost of doing it as well, and yet we're we're slightly down overall on from last year.
Yeah, we're like 5% down.
5% down, but
on sales.
On sales, but no radio ads. So for me, that was a massive win. Like, but going into this, we weren't actually sure how we'd go without the radio ads. But as you said, our Facebook ads are going gangbusters. We don't have the cost of an agency this year. So we've really reduced our kind of fixed cost and marketing costs this year, but still keeping all the good stuff as well.
Yeah, thank God. And it's been one of those things that we were really scared about, actually, because we're like, okay, we've not got radio ads. What's going to be that repeatable thing that we can get in, not just this year, but also next year. And I feel really strongly with where we've gotten to with our Facebook ads. So that's awesome. And then a couple of other areas that we're now starting to consider and just starting to go through are our celebrity boxes. And you've been working heaps on that.
Yeah, so me and some of the girls in the team have been building out this proposition this year. I really wanted to get our socks out to some celebrities. I think I've always loved our socks, but we're really in a position with our packaging and our product range and we've got loads of kids designs, and I just thought now is the time for us to send these to some celebrities and hope that they post about them. So obviously with celebrities, this is a difficult one because you're sending them to their agents in the hope that they'll then pass them on. And I'm sure some of these celebrities just get swamped with gifts.
Yeah, they must do.
So amazing. They might just get some free socks and love them, and then that's it. Not everyone is going to post about it on Instagram and tag us and all of that. But we've had some success. We've had one celebrity, so we sent some out to Natalie Cassidy, who plays Sonia on EastEnders. So I've grown up watching.
Shout out Sonia.
Yeah, go Sonia.
Or Natalie.
Or Natalie, yeah. But I mean, I've grown up watching EastEnders, so she's Sonia in our household. And she, bless her, posted about it, did a little photo and tagged us, and then I re-tagged her back to thank her, and she was like, you're welcome and stuff. So it is nice that you can do that. Obviously it's a kind of an upfront cost that we've got no guaranteed return, but I think sometimes you do have to shoot for the moon and just see what happens. And this has happened to us before. We did this last year on a whim. I sent some out to a couple of celebrities last year, and they did actually post about them. Michaela Strachan was one of them, and then obviously David Attenborough. He didn't post about it, but he sent me a letter back. So this year I wanted to be more strategic with it. So we've designed these beautiful boxes. We're packing them up with lots of socks. They get a handwritten note. And then we wrap that up and we send it to the agent, who we also include socks and a note for the agent, in the hope that we're buttering them up a bit and they're more likely to send ours on than someone else's. But it's working because the agents are coming back to say, thank you so much, I'll pass it on. So yeah, I don't know, maybe by the time this goes live, we'll be in on some massive celeb's Instagram and we've just gone absolute gangbusters. But it's, I think, worthwhile trying it. And a goal for us next year is to get a celebrity ambassador on board in some capacity on a regular basis. I don't know what that looks like yet, but that's something we're moving towards.
Yeah, and I mean, David Attenborough did post about it. He just sent the old school post. Yeah. Royal Mail.
He wasn't going to be on Instagram.
He posted it back to us. What a legend.
Yeah.
And I think it's been great to see how the direct-to-consumer business has grown, but also how the wholesale business has grown as well. And so I think this year we're about parity where we were last year in terms of our wholesale revenue, which is amazing if you consider that the B2B e-commerce platforms like Fair, Anchor Store, Creelweight were offering just free money to retailers to purchase our socks. And we've now got repeat business that's at the same scale, but without that exogenous kind of money in from all these venture capital players. And that's doing really well. So the past 3 months, we're at a scale that we've never been at before, or actually the only time we have been has been at that peak of kind of free money, which obviously isn't going to be coming back anytime soon. And growing our wholesale has really been the main area from our emails. And we've started going out to customers, not just once a month, not just every fortnight, but now sometimes 2 times a week. And being in front of that customer, wholesale or retailer, when they're sitting there thinking, what am I going to purchase? What am I looking at on the stock floor? I need some Christmas socks to sell. Actually, Bear Kind is right there to help me straight away. Yeah. So that's been a massive uplift for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the emails have been awesome, obviously. And another thing we've done on the wholesale side of things is we've sent out our catalogues in the post. So we have done catalogues in the past, but maybe not to this extent. So we might have slipped one into someone's order when they've purchased, or sent some to some of our biggest customers. But we ordered, not a huge amount, but we ordered 50 and just sent them out to our top customers who hadn't ordered in the past 3 months or whatever it was. And we got orders off the back of that. And then the next step was anyone that still hadn't ordered, I then sent them a personal email to say, hey, did you see the catalogue? Just want to talk to you about your kind of stock purchasing for this year. Have you seen the Christmas socks? Again, we got more orders off the back of that. So people coming back saying, wow, these Christmas socks are amazing. I've made a purchase. Because I think because we're living and breathing this stock all day, every day, we assume that everyone else has seen it, but they haven't. You could have sent multiple emails, posted all over social media. Everyone has their own stuff going on, and they get busy. So a lot of people hadn't seen them yet. And in my mind, I'm like, how? Like, I've been posting about this for months, but they just don't. So a simple email, honestly, 2 sentences from me saying, how's your stock levels? Here's some new Christmas socks, earned us thousands of pounds. It's crazy.
Yeah, really important that like the power of, I guess, the brand, the power of, you know, being there at the right time is crucial. I really think this year we've leveled up as a business in particular, not just on our product marketing or wholesale, but also how we're running the team, the people within it, you know, I guess our knowledge management, the whole 9 yards, our working relationship. But where did you want to jump off into this?
Yeah, I think, if we start with the team meetings, which, not just the team meetings, but the rhythm we have got with the team, which is also kind of how we've split our role, because so we've started working together in this partnership at the start of this year. So Andy left his job at HSBC at the start of the year. We've come together, and to start with, we were just working on the business. We just started. We didn't really discuss it. We just got going, and then soon realised that we need to have a discussion about the split of the role, who's doing what, and our kind of like identities in the business as well. And at that point we discovered I'm the founder and you're the CEO, and we'd naturally fallen into those roles, and that's very common really in this kind of scenario, and as part of that the team management side of things fell into your wheelhouse more than mine. I'd been managing the team fine up until that point, and I've got a great relationship with them, but you've got 10 plus years experience of managing teams, and I think what the team were really kind of asking for, subliminally, I guess, was more like process and more like understanding of like what's coming next. And I'm not process driven at all. Like it's literally it's a big blocker to me. Like I'm just kind of more, I don't know how to explain it. I just don't like process.
Yeah, and I think I don't see it as process as much as I see it as like, clearing the way for the team to focus on what they want to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of comfort that you can get in predictability. And it's about making it predictable for the team so that they're not thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? What should I do now? It's more like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen now, and therefore I can put my creative energies on what I'm actually building.
Yeah.
So for example, our emails, we know what the rhythm is that we're doing. We know the messaging we're talking about, but the creative behind it, that's where we can start to get a bit more fascinating. And I don't want to see it as like, I'm sucking the fun out of everything. It's more like, actually, how do I kind of just, I guess, direct the team into a place of like, okay, this is what you're building. Now go off and make that thing amazing.
Yeah.
Rather than let's be creative about how we're running the business.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the structure, I think everyone is really like thriving under the structure, because wouldn't put too much structure in, and then I'd come in and be like, guys, I've got this idea, let's do this. And you can kind of see the team being like, okay, right, but what about this? Is this kind of classic like founder thing of like, oh, this next and next and next, and where I'm trying to like, my brain is just jumping from this idea to the next. A team doesn't want that. Like, they like the excitement of like new ideas, but they actually want the structure of, okay, well, I know what my priorities are and how I'm adding value, but I now cannot just throw stuff at them to prioritize. It's a case of, okay, it has to come through the channel, and I'll be like, I've got this idea, but where does it sit in the team's priorities? And more often than not, it might not be an urgent thing that needs to be done. So we've kind of come through this split of you're managing the team, and I'm, I guess, more like on like various different projects and stuff. So B Corp's a good example of that. That was like one massive project that I was just like launched at and complete, and then I come back and I'm like, okay, what's next? But yeah, so I think you're probably better placed to talk about the team rhythm you've got going on at the moment.
Yeah, and I think the team rhythm changes necessarily throughout the year. So, during, I guess, kind of the 9 to 5 section, which is probably like, Jan to September, it's like, okay, let's have a relatively predictable meeting. Let's make sure we're experimenting on a wide variety of things outside of just the core business. Whereas now it's very much an operational rhythm really from October onwards. We've got content calendar, we're talking specifically about what's happening in other areas, and we're really just trying to hammer this operational rhythm that we can make sure we're driving sales, because every additional email we send here is worth 10 emails that we were sending earlier in the year. And so ramp that up and really kind of make it into more of a trading environment. Whereas in the rest of the year, it's a bit more about that creative side of the thing, side of the business, a bit more time to go away by yourself, focus on what you're doing, send 1 email a week, 2 emails a week, but don't go too crazy on it, and then spend the rest of the time building up other avenues. So Etsy, Amazon, all that type of stuff. And I think it's been working well.
Yeah, I think the key thing really is, especially when you work in retail and you've got this, basically you just reset at the start of each year, and it's the same thing each year, and there's a few different variables, and as you grow, new things will come in, but the core things stay the same. You're still aiming for Christmas. You've still got certain like milestones in the year, like Father's Day for us is a big one for socks, that you're aiming for, and you've still got product launches, and the fundamentals of those stay the same. You might level up and you might have a new team and you might have an increased size of team, but the fundamentals stay the same. So you don't want to be reinventing the wheel every time it comes around. So when we get to Christmas every year, we don't want to be sitting there with a blank page, because we've done 4 or 5 Christmases now. So, you know, every single time we should have like a system in place that we know exactly what we're doing. And, you know, one of the team members has been with her, this is her 3rd Christmas with us, or 2nd Christmas. Anyway, she's been with us a few Christmases, and she's like, she looks after our emails. So she comes back around and she doesn't start from scratch each time. She knows exactly what worked last year and will come in and build the skeleton of it. And we've got this process. So she'll come in, build the skeleton, come to us and say, this is what I'm thinking. As a team, we'll work out, is there any other key events that we might have missed that need to come into this? Any other ideas? Mystery box, we're launching, you know, a few new things. But other than that, the kind of baseline has stayed the same. And you don't want, and then once you've got all that, you're kind of freeing up your thinking space to then go and do other creative stuff. So we're like, okay, well, we're doing some celeb boxes, so that's new. Let's put some creative energy on that, because you don't want to be rehashing everything every single time, because, you know, you've already done a lot of the work the previous year.
Yeah, 100%. And it's improving, I guess that's like the main thing. It's like all great that we're focusing on like these internal metrics, but also the external metrics are improving. And that was one of the things I actually spoke about with the ex-CEO of one of the largest sock companies in the world. And I'm sure he doesn't want me to mention which company it is, probably one that you all relatively know. And that was an incredible meeting. And he was talking about, you know, some massive things for us, like, you know, that we've been talking about. Do we go into other products? The answer is definitely not. Should we just keep focusing on socks? Absolutely. Do we need to expand the range massively? Well, that's a kind of two-headed question, I guess. The first part is we need to get big enough. The second part is that we need to make sure we're not spending heaps of money on underperforming stock, because salespeople can always sell the socks they don't have. And, you know, we've got some great sellers, so let's keep selling those ones. And so being a bit more aggressive about, you know, changing the socks that we've got so we can save more animals, which I thought was a cool piece of insight.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one for us going in. I've always been very protective of every single design, but actually we need to be more strategic in the way that it's okay if a design isn't bought back. If it's not a good seller, we can't bring it back. We might rethink it. It doesn't mean that that charity relationship is gone. Doesn't mean that animal is not going to be used again, but it's more about rethinking it, redesigning it, but also doubling down on what works well. And that's why puffins, which I've got here, they were such a good seller in the original range that is why we brought them out in the Christmas design, because we knew they'd sell well. And what's happened? They've sold out. Fastest selling sock ever for us, I
definitely.
think. Crazy.
In terms of days. I mean, it's hard to know what it looks like in terms of, like, you know, I guess sales adjusted and amount of days adjusted, but it's definitely been
the
really
headline,
quick,
fastest selling sock ever,
Let's
sounds
go.
cool, yeah.
I mean, we sold out half of them before we'd even, you know.
Pre-orders, baby, that is the way forward. Pre-orders on Fair has been amazing. And you mentioned, meeting with that CEO. Our board meetings have been a huge thing for us this year. We've spoken about them previously. I've done other videos talking about our advisory board, and it's growing legs. We now have I guess technically 4 people on the board, some that are kind of more regular than others, but it's a really important part of our process, because we kind of come in, we do all the you do all the management information, and we come in and we discuss the business, where it's going. are we performing against plan? And the most exciting thing for me is talking about our goals for next year and the strategies for like 2024 and beyond that we won't go into now because we haven't done it yet. But we've got a few ideas of what we're going after next year, and I think that will have to make a separate podcast because there's some real cool things that we're going to go after.
Absolutely. And I think it's been quite a big area of improvement. So we have a partner from McKinsey on the board, which is ridiculous. We have a former private equity investor and current private equity investor on the board as well, and a chief marketing officer. And those have all brought really important improvements to every aspect of the business. And then we're hoping to get, this kind of SOC CEO on the board. That would be amazing. And, even further, probably someone who's, I guess, just got general experience in the retail space. And what we can offer at the moment is quite a lucrative compensation package, actually. It's a unlimited supply of socks, pretty much. I don't know how many socks you'd want, but we could probably make it unlimited. And we are just trying to grow bit by bit. We're not here to reinvent the sock industry. We're here to reinvent how you can use apparel to save animals. And so that's how we're trying to think about it. And these people have been super helpful for us. I think there's a couple of other areas that we could talk about, but I'm not sure how long we want to keep going for.
No, I was going to say, so when we talk about building Rome, our empire, Bearkind, as we said, Bearkind takes up 95% plus of it. So I think that's a good place to leave it, because the only other thing we start discussing is things like the YouTube channel, the podcast. We've started a kind of, I guess, an agency where we're managing other companies' fair accounts for them on the wholesale side of it, a coaching service as well. But they're a very small part of it. This is kind of things that we're throwing a bit of energy at, seeing where it goes, throwing things, seeing where it lands. But yeah, I think we'll leave those for now because we'll see how they go. But as you can see, this is where the YouTube channel is at the moment. So every week we release content that will help you and your business grow. So if you did find this useful, please go to YouTube and subscribe to Candid Founders, because we really appreciate your support, and we're trying to bring out content that will help you in your business and hopefully provide some value. And we will see you in the next episode.